What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Holiday Cup featuring a normal type Pokemon with the fast move of Rollout, which isn't too crazy, but of course the Dunsparce actually got several move updates this season, which you might have already forgotten about, including gaining access to Body Slam. It did also gain access to Dragon Tail, which could be good for certain limited metas, but with Wigglytuff being on basically every team right now in this cup, I decided to run it with the Rollout for that neutral play, and I'm pairing it with Togekiss in the lead and Breloom as the closer. This isn't quite as spicy as some of my regular teams, but it is quite usable. If, however, you don't want to use Breloom, I think Annihilate probably would be fine there as a substitute, but I'm running Breloom because it's more fun. With that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which move update for this season do you think most people have already forgotten about? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle. Going to lead Togekiss into Forest. So this is a really dominant matchup for the Togekiss, but the opponent's going to be safe swapping into a Shadow Galvantula. Crazy Spice on the opponent's end. I'm going to no-shield this, and Lunge does quite a lot of damage. You can see the Dunsparce doesn't quite have the bulk of the Dunsparce, but we can go for a Body Slam, and because we're on Body Slam this season, we can reach back-to-back moves before they farm me down, and even though I'm debuffed, Body Slam gets the KO. We maintain alignment, which wasn't maybe that necessary because we do have Breloom in the back, but we do also have a shield advantage as the opponent comes in with the Dene. At this point, I'm going to fire for an Ancient Power, just looking to chip here, and now we can come in with the Breloom, of course. I am resisting the fast move damage. The opponent might full send a Play Rough here. They might go for a Parabolic Charge. They go for Play Rough, and at this point, we can now look to overfarm just a little bit. There's honestly not much they can do. If they want to shield here and go for another Play Rough, I'm just going to double shield, and so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I see Togekiss into a Shadow Annihilate. It's a great lead matchup for me, of course. I do have Ancient Power and Aura Sphere, which are both going to hit for resisted damage. So, I actually don't mind staying in here with the Togekiss, going for an Aura Sphere, grabbing a shield advantage, and then swapping into the Dunsparce. But I'm able to get to a Body Slam here before the opponent expects a charge move, as Body Slam, of course, is cheaper to get to than a Rock Slide or a Drill Run. Of course, they debuff my attack stat. We can win CMP once again. However, since we are debuffed, unfortunately Body Slam doesn't quite KO, so it looks like I will be forced to use a shield in return. The opponent fires off the Swift. We can go for the Rollout Farm Down, and can we get to a Drill Run? Unfortunately not quite able to do so, but they come back in with the Shadow Annihilate, and I'm certainly going to use my final shield here, as of course my Breloom is really going to struggle in this matchup, but their final Pokemon is Unova Stunfisk, and even though Breloom is very glassy, this is one of the only matchups where we can tank two charge moves without needing any shields here. Of course, they are still going to get me very low, but that's actually exactly what I want from this matchup. So I'm going to farm up to back-to-back Seed Bombs before throwing. The opponent very likely just no shields this, as it gets the KO. But now we can go for another Seed Bomb, and I would actually prefer if the opponent no shields this as well, which they do, maybe expecting me to have Side Shock. But either way, one more peck gets the full farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG top on there into the next battle. You see Jellicent in the lead. So, this is not that great of a matchup for me just because Ancient Power isn't that great of a move. But I'm able to swap out and I'm able to catch a Shadow Ball onto the Dunsparce. That is huge for me. The opponent's now going to come in with Credilli. Fine with me as well. We can go straight for Drill Run, and they're actually going to shield that first charge move. I really don't think they needed to do that there because, of course, I know they are going to debuff me with a Rock Tomb here. And Rock Tomb is going to get me fairly low, but they could very easily live one Drill Run and a debuff Drill Run there. So, definitely didn't need to shield, but now we're going to come in with the Breloom, and I do actually resist all the charge moves here, so I'm going to no-shield this. They actually go for Grass Knot, dealing a little bit more damage, trying to snipe with a Charm from the Wigglytuff, but I'm just barely able to react in time. I was going to try and commit to a Dynamic Punch there, but we go for Seed Bomb. We can now come in with the Togekiss. Aura Sphere is going to grab the final shield, and now I am going to shield this. The opponent doesn't farm to an Icy Wind, so I can now overfarm just a little bit here. I'm going to go for 2 pecks just because if I go for 1, I'm still going to take the damage from a single charm anyways, so might as well go for 2 there. We fire off the Aura Sphere, and let's see, I expect the opponent is going to try and make a catch back onto Credilli, which they go for, but unfortunately for them, it does not work out. And now we've got back-to-back Ancient Powers. Like I mentioned, not the best charge move here. I'm only running it full coverage up against Fire-type Pokemon, but we can go for a second Ancient Power. Ancient Power gets them into 1 peck farm down range, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there, into the next battle, you see Skeledirge in the lead. So this is why we are running Ancient Power. However, I have found that basically every Skeledirge is just going to double shield in the double shield in the lead matchup there, which is not really ideal. And of course, having Ancient Power costing a little bit what the hell? Having Ancient Power cost a little bit more energy than Side Shock means that I won't get to 3 charge moves here if I do stay in this matchup. So we go for Ancient Power number 2, and as you can see, we are very nearly getting to a charge move, but not quite able to do so. So I'm forced to swap out there. They go for Torch Song. That does huge damage at this point. I am going to go for a Body Slam here, just because Body Slam is going to connect. But they actually swap. They make a catch onto Licky Licky. That was a really nice catch there. Didn't even see that swap. But unfortunately for me, they will be able to go for a full farm down. Now, Breloom is going to come in. I kind of have to no-shield this just because Skeledirge will reach a charge move up against me. Shadow Ball does insane damage. I am 1 away from the Seed Bomb, but they come in with a Wigglytuff, and unfortunately, there's just nothing I can do here. Seed Bomb is going to connect there, but they can just charm farm me all the way down, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's opponent there, into the next battle, Wigglytuff in the lead. And I have to say, this meta is feeling really stale right now. Basically, every single team is just Wigglytuff, maybe like a Skeledirge or something, Annihilate, Furret, and other normal types. It is very boring, but we are going to go and stay in this matchup. We're going to go and bank an Aura Sphere there, because I was debuffed. I know that wouldn't KO. Here, I do look to overfarm. I wasn't sure if the opponent was going to try and make a catch. The opponent goes for Icy Wind, but then they swap into Corviknight. And that is even worse for me, because I'm not running Rock Slide. I've only got resisted charge moves to throw, and I am also debuffed. So they can just farm up a ton of energy in this matchup. So what I'm going to look to try and do is swap out. I end up making a catch, which wasn't intentional. I was just trying to bank some energy, and we are able to catch an Air Cutter there, which of course isn't going to get the KO. We can go for Aura Sphere, grab a shield. They swap back into Wigglytuff, but all shields are now down, and we have quite a lot of energy onto Dunsparce. So at this point, we're going to go straight for the Body Slam here. Body Slam will be enough damage, since we're not debuffed anymore, to take out the Wigglytuff. And let's see, their final Pokemon is going to be a Chansey. You hate to see it, but we do have one of the better answers to Chansey, although they're dealing more damage with Zen Headbutts, non-stab Zen Headbutts, compared to my Force Palms, which is just insane to think about. But we go for a Dynamic Punch here. Dynamic Punch gets the KO up against the Corviknight, and at this point, I can just safely shield this. They're not going to reach 2 charge moves. I could go for a Seed Bomb, but actually, the opponent is just going to concede the match, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there, into the next battle. You see Diggersby in the lead. So, a great lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to be safe swapping into Unova and Stunfisk, and I will respond with the Breloom. At this point, I'm going to no-shield this as a Mud Bomb is going to hit for resisted damage. We've seen already, Breloom can tank 2 of these. I'm going to fire off the Seed Bomb here. Maybe I should have over-farmed, but either way, I will be able to go for a Force Palm farm down anyways. The opponent fires off a second Mud Bomb. We get the full farm down. They come in with Jellicent, and we will reach a Seed Bomb, but the opponent actually catches that onto Diggersby. Seed Bomb, of course, is super effective into both of their remaining Pokemon, but I guess it did make sense to take the resisted Force Palm damage onto their Jellicent. At this point, we are now going to look to overfarm quite considerably. Gonna fire off the Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere is going to be KOing the Diggersby, and they come back in with the Jellicent. At this point, this is going to be game over. Ancient Power is going to grab a shield, and I can just safely let this move go through. The Dunsparce is going to be a very good Pokemon to wall the damage from this Jellicent. Of course, Surf is neutral, but both the Hexes and the Shadow Balls are double resisted. I'm going to shield this just because I can. At this point, this is going to be game over, so we can go for Drill Run. Drill Run, not going to deal that much damage, but a second Drill Run will definitely get the KO, and if the opponent, recognizing there's not a lot they can do here, they should just allow the move to go through, which they do, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there, into the next battle. We see Aurorus in the lead. So, not a great matchup for me, but of course, I do have access to Aura Sphere. So, hopefully, if we do end up aligning our Togekiss to the Aurorus later in the battle, we do have that coverage there. Now, the opponent's going to chip with the Aurorus, and then they swap into a Sableye. Don't know why I'm struggling to talk so much today, but we are going to shield in this matchup, and honestly, this is a matchup where I probably should take advantage of having access to Body Slam, as the opponent is probably going to shield here, going to fight for switch advantage, which means if I baited with the Body Slam, I could then reach the Drill Run here, whereas now, unfortunately, they should recognize that is just a Body Slam Slam. I am able to snipe with the Togekiss, which is very nice, and we can now outpace to an Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere, double super effective. It is going to force the final shield. I'm going to no-shield this, and the opponent is actually going to go for an undercharge. Smart play on their end, and the opponent's going to come in with their final Pokemon, which unfortunately is going to be a Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, of course, going to deal massive damage with the Charms up against my Breloom, but likewise, Force Palm is also going to chunk in this matchup. So here, I'm trying to deal as much damage as possible, hopefully put them into rollout farm down range, but unfortunately for me, whilst I can farm them down here, they've got back-to-back Swifts already, and of course, Breloom has like 1 HP. My only hope really is that the opponent swaps back into Auroras for some reason, so I go for Dynamic Punch here, just in case they did that, because then we could have got a simultaneous KO, but unfortunately, they don't swap out. That doesn't make any sense to do that, and so we do lose that game. But GG's top opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see Skeledirge in the lead once again. So once again, going to go for the Ancient Power here, and I do expect this to be shielded. And the opponent is going to do exactly that. Now, they throw straight away here, which does seem a bit odd because, of course, that's not the best timing. However, in boosting up their attack stat with the Incinerate, they probably actually get the farm down slightly faster there. So I'm actually going to swap out this time a lot sooner than I did last time. Of course, this is going to be a boosted Torch Song. It does big damage. And again, I'm just going straight for Body Slam. This is resisted damage here. Double resisted. And actually, they can fully Incinerate farm me down. However, if I don't throw the Body Slam, I am kind of forced to use a shield to get off the Duron, in which case they very likely just swap out of the matchup at that point. But here they go for a Torch Song. I'm now going to swap out, transfer the Incinerate damage onto Togekiss, but they've got the Wigglytuff in the back. However, this might end up being the same team, so we overfarm as much as we can here. We go for Dynamic Punch, it gets the KO, and it is the same team. And with the overfarm, we can outpace to a second Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch from Breloom gets the KO there, and Breloom able to sweep that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle, Togekiss into Diggersby once again. So, another great lead matchup for me. The opponent is going to choose to stay in initially here. They're then going to look to try and catch an Aura Sphere. Now, I don't have the best response. I do have the Dunsparce, of course. We've got access to Draw Run. They've got access to Sacred Sword. And 2 Sacred Swords will get the KO. They will outpace as well. And we are both hitting full resisted fast move damage. They go for the second one there. I'm going to farm up to back-to-back drill runs. First one will be coming through, and it is going to be no-shielded. It barely doesn't get the KO there. But hopefully we have put them into range where a triple resisted Body Slam would take them out. At this point, I don't need Switch Advantage, as I do have Breloom and Togekiss. But we've got a lot of energy on the Togekiss. I'm not going to reveal my third just yet, as well, because Diggersby has not thrown a charge move yet. Of course, Fire Punch would hit for super effective into my Breloom. But here they overfarm massively and allow me to get to 2 Aura Spheres. Aura Sphere number 2 gets the KO, and their final Pokemon, Togedemaru. Breloom is going to have a field day in this matchup, as the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle, Unova and Stunfisk in the lead. So I will be swapping straight away into the Dunsparce, and the opponent is going to stay in this matchup, and they will throw a poor timing there. It is usually very difficult to time up against Rollout, just because the animation is a little bit behind what it should be. But here they're going to swap. They're getting a very nice catch there, catching the Drill Run, which is unfortunate for me because I think maybe 3 Body Slams would KO. But either way, we're still at back-to-back Body Slams already, and we are going to get off a second Body Slam here. Body Slam should be grabbing a shield, but now they can charm farm me all the way down. You can see I did consider swapping out into my Togekiss, but I didn't want to be switch locked. So at this point, they're going to go for an Icy Wind, and unfortunately, they can reach another charge move here. Swift will get the KO. I'm going to come in with the Breloom and go for the Force Palm farm down. They actually swap out there, swapping into Unova and Stunfisk. Now, I know I've already mentioned this. We can tank 2 charge moves. However, I don't know what they've got in the back. I need to preserve as much HP as possible. Seed Bomb gets the KO. And we're going to see the opponent's final Pokemon is a Skeledirge, so there's nothing Breloom can do there, so I do just end up conceding the match. But GG's top opponent there into the next battle. We see Sableye in the lead. The opponent's going to be safe swapping into a Talonflame. And of course, I'm going to come in with the Dunsparce. I'm going to no-shield the first move here. Dare them to full send a Brave Bird. However, because of course this is the Dunsparce and not Dunsparce, we don't tank that as comfortably as you might expect. And as a result, if the opponent really wants to, they can double shield to maintain alignment. So the opponent is going to go for exactly that. We come in with the Togekiss. And of course, I'm going to shield here. But they're not at back-to-back charge moves. So I can peck farm them down. We don't even take a single boosted Incinerate. The final Pokemon is Jellicent. However, I don't really know why I swapped out into my Breloom. Of course, Breloom is a grass-type Pokemon, but we're hitting for double resisted damage with those Force Palms, and we didn't even reach a Seed Bomb before the opponent grabs a shield from me. Now, all shields are down. This is just going to be a foul play. Foul play is resisted, but it puts me into range where they can farm down. So here, I actually go for an undercharge. We can come in with the Togekiss, get slightly ahead on energy, and now we can go for back-to-back Ancient Powers. However, we've already seen this. Ancient Power not really dealing that much damage. Honestly, my only win condition is getting a boost right now, and we get the boost. That is huge for me because now Togekiss gonna be able to tank a Shadow Ball and be able to reach another Ancient Power. That was really clutch for me. Honestly, didn't deserve to win that game, but Ancient Power gets the KO now, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. Wigglytuff in the lead once again. So, once again, just going to play out this lead matchup here unless they swap out. But the opponent is going to choose to stay in here. We are going to go for an Aura Sphere. Going to throw just before they do reach that first charge move. Throwing after 7 pecks, throwing on good timing. And they actually no shield. This is also going to be a Swift, which is not going to hit for super effective damage. It's also not going to debuff my attack stat, meaning I can fully farm them all the way down. Now the opponent comes in with Fire, which means they are probably double weak to Togekiss, so I'm actually going to bank the energy, swap into the Dunsparce, and their final Pokemon is Annihilate. So things are now suddenly looking a little bit tricky for me, as Annihilate does very easily beat both the Dunsparce and my Breloom. With this one, I can't afford to shield this. They actually bait with a Rage Fist, which is huge for me, as now I can fire off the Duran. Duran will be grabbing a shield there from the opponent. We can come back in with the Togekiss, and I will go for a resistant Ancient Power. Of course, Ancient Power should be grabbing a shield here. The opponent can go for a full farm down. They are boosted, but they do blind throw, so maybe they full send a close combat here, and the opponent actually does exactly that. They're forced to swap out, of course clearing the debuff there, but now they can fire off the Swift. We get the farm down. We're one away from a Seed Bomb, and so the opponent just concedes the match. So honestly looked a little bit tricky once they came in with the Annihilate, but we're still able to take that game. GG's to that trainer into the next battle. I'm gonna see a Shadow Alola Ninetales in the lead. We say swap into the Dunsparce, and we're met with a Spiritomb. Now, this is honestly the worst matchup I played here today, as I can comfortably live a Rock Tomb here, but then I make a huge mistake. I thought, oh, we live 2 Sucker Punches. I'll go for the extra roll-up. Nope, that is not the case. I could have easily grabbed a Shield Advantage or just flipped that matchup, but now, unfortunately, I come in with my Togekiss, and not only did we lose switch advantage, I'm also going to go down a shield as they reach a Rock Tomb as well. So honestly, that was awful on my end, but we're going to swap into Breloom. The opponent does actually swap out straight away. They're running an ABB style team there with Shadow Sableye in the back. We can grab a shield back with the Seed Bomb. However, the opponent able to fully Shadow Claw farm me down. And to be honest, even if we did grab a shield there with the drill run, I think we end up losing this game anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter too much, but still, definitely annoyed about that play. Power Gem easily gets the KO there. I don't shield because I know it's game over, and so we do lose that game. But GG's up in there into the next battle, another Skeledirge in the lead. So once again, very likely that they just stay in and double shield here with the Torch Songs. And that is very frustrating for me because even though I do have the Dunsparce in the back, it's not that dominant of a matchup. But the opponent this time is going to go for the extra Incinerate before throwing, which does mean, of course, they throw on better timing, but also means that I can also throw on good timing here. Going for the Ancient Power going to be shielded. And again, we're not going to reach that last charge move, so I am forced to swap out here, and they are boosted. But I think I have to just no-shield this again. Torch Song does big damage. This time I try to throw the Body Slam and we lose CMP here. But Torch Song gets the KO. I kind of have to come in with the Breloom. I don't think I can quite go for a full peck farm down, but that one Incinerate does insane damage. But let's see if we still have play. They come in with a Furret, and that is huge for me. Hopefully, they are weak to this Pokemon in the back. So what I'm actually going to do is bank the energy, swap back into Togekiss, go for the Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere, gonna get the KO, and they were double weak to the Breloom in the back, meaning we can come in, we can go straight for Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch, super effective, into Morpeko. It easily gets the KO. And I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. We can see a Talonflame in the lead. So, we are going to stay in this matchup here, of course. We can go straight for an Ancient Power. And Ancient Power is double super effective. Honestly, this is really the only matchup where Ancient Power is really much better than the Side Shot because it would get the one shot from that range. However, unfortunately, they're going to shield anyway. So, I'm going to swap into the Dunsparce. The opponent is going to bank a ton of energy before swapping into Venusaur. Now, at this point, I'm going to go for a Body Slam. Body Slam is going to deal decent damage here. I throw the next one straight away just because I know I can outpace them if they try and go for one extra fast move. However, in doing so, I allow the opponent to farm up to back-to-back sludges, and that is really not ideal for me. If I just throw on good timing there, of course, maybe the opponent does just end up throwing a charge move, but that wouldn't be so bad because Togekiss could just come in and farm them down. But now I'm forced to use a shield. I come in with my Breloom just because I expect the Talonflame to come back in. They do go for the Incinerate first, but now I'm going to shield this. I'm going to go for one more Force Palm, hopefully put them into range where I can Peck farm them down. But not quite, so the opponent is going to reach the charge move here. Of course, Fly gets the KO. We can Force Palm farm them down. They've actually got more Pekko in the back. But unfortunately, I'm fairly low. We've taken one Incinerate's worth of damage already. Just a Psychic Fangs non-stab from Morpeko is going to be enough damage to get the KO there. And so unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's opponent into the next battle. You see Aurorus in the lead, so I will be safe swapping into my Dunsparce. The opponent is going to choose to stay in initially, and I'm actually going to shield this because they have farmed up to a Meteor Beam, and they do full send it there. So great shield. We can now go for a Drill Run, and I will outpace the back-to-back Drill Run. So Drill Run, first one is going to be shielded. Again, I'm not going to throw on perfect timing. Instead, just guaranteeing both shields from the opponent or the KO, and this time the opponent is going to throw straight away. Honestly, I feel like 2 Force Palms gets the farm down, and we are able to do exactly that. That is huge for me as we do avoid using our final shield. They're going to come in with a Sableye. I'm going to swap into my Togekiss. And of course, I don't have access to Dazzling Gleam here, which means I actually don't know if I can KO, but the opponent is going to swap into their final Pokemon, which is going to be a Wigglytuff. At this point, we're going to go for back-to-back Aura Spheres. First one does decent damage, and that should hopefully mean a second Aura Sphere will get the KO. Aura Sphere, we throw on CMP, we get the KO, and that is game over because I can just chip with an Aura Sphere. We have the C-Bomb loaded on Breloom, and so the opponent just what the heck? The opponent just concedes the match. Alright, going into the final battle. GG's to that previous trainer, by the way. And we're going to see more Pekko in the lead. Now here, I probably shouldn't shield this just because I can tank it. But we're going to shield anyways. The opponent is, of course, going to be swapping forms. And now they come in with Gourgeist, which not ideal for me because I've only got Body Slam, which is double resisted, or Drill Run, which is single resisted. But I guess it's not the worst matchup ever because I can tank a Seed Bomb. So the opponent goes for Seed Bomb there. My Switch Clock is now up though, so I can swap back into Togekiss. And that is great for me. Now I'm going to shield this as this is going to be a full send of the Shadow Ball. The opponent is going to swap out into Skeledirge. You see they waited, well, basically 4 turns there just to guarantee they could swap out slightly sooner. But that's fine with me. We can now look to throw on CMP, going for the Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere probably KOs from this range. So the opponent is going to use their shield. And now I've put them into range where hopefully the Dunsparce can roll out, farm them down. And we are able to do exactly that. We come out with a ton of energy. They come back in with the Gourgeist, but if they shield this could be very tricky. But they no shield, meaning we can come in with the Breloom. And this time, we're not low enough where a charge move will take us out. So, of course, the opponent going to go for the harder hitting Aura Wheel, which does insane damage. But we do hang on, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.